Great morning, world. Great morning, humans. A little bit of a funny acknowledgement that I started and did my whole intro. Because we're live, I can share this with you. And then I realized that it wasn't live. Just a little transparency and silliness for you on a Monday morning. So great morning, world. Great morning, humans. My name is Dr. JC Doornick, and this is another edition of the Make Sense with Dr. JC podcast. So in acknowledgement of one of the world's, and this is my opinion, but it's also statistically proven, one of the world's greatest bands, known as the Grateful Dead, and quoting one of their most well-known lyrics, "I need a miracle every day." I, like ChatGPT, was prompted to share this special rise up with you today, and I call it miraculous. And what's really cool is if you needed something else to be cool, is that it's a special 11/11. Today's November 11th, which means that 2 times today you'll be able to hit the trifecta. It's a special 11/11 rise up on the topic of expecting miracles. So happy 11/11 to you, my friends. Today's episode unpacks the science, art, and philosophy around miracles. What are they, and to what degree do you and I control the manifestation of things called miracles? Can we expect a miracle today? Does it being 11/11 make it more apt to happen? Can you expect a miracle more on this day? Well, let's see. I think you're going to be both surprised, shocked, and intrigued by what I have found on this topic. So I want to welcome everybody to the Make Sense with Dr. JC Doornick podcast. This podcast covers topics that expand human consciousness and performance. On the Make Sense podcast, we acknowledge that it's actually who you are that determines how well what you do works. And perception, what it is that we see, is subjective and is an acquired taste. It's something that we've developed along the way, which in no way, shape, or form makes it the truth or the end-all truth, just our truth. So if it's true that when we change the way we look at things, then the things that we look at begin to change, well, then consider this podcast your daily dose of a new perspective around some of the things that you perhaps have already made up your mind about. So welcome to the uprising of the sleepwalking masses. Welcome to the Make Sense with Dr. JC podcast. So to give credit where credit is due, how do we keep our lights on and pay the bills? Because this is a free podcast service. The Make Sense podcast is sponsored and supported by the Make Sense Academy and Make Sense Business Academy. It's a private psychological safe haven where you can stop going through life and begin the process of growing through life. So otherwise known as MSA, we use a unique low-cost group coaching model where you can gain access to all that coaching, business and headspace, mentorship, and all the tools and skill sets that you need to grow, while at the same time participating and engaging as a key element of what is becoming an incubator for overall growth. So check out the Make Sense Academy, support the podcast, and do so risk-free with a money-back guarantee for how much? $48 a month. And you'd want to secure that before at the end of the year, the beginning of the next, we go to $97 a month, as if that's a lot. So secure your spot there, risk-free with a money-back guarantee. So today is called Miraculous, and I am very, very excited about this. And I see folks coming in. We're in our live Make Sense Monday version of the podcast. Everything will be shorter and cleaned up as we go. I find it extremely funny that I went through. It's funny, when you do a live show, for those of you that look at this and think it's scary, it's no longer scary for me, but it's kind of silly at times because you put so much focus and attention on all of the show aspects that you forget about all of those passionate ideas that you had and you just wanted to share organically. So I hope that you'll agree that they're coming out organically and flowing, but at the same time, some funny things happen every now and then, like spending the first 5-6 minutes talking and then realizing you didn't push the live button. So maybe we'll have some short takes. So today is on the topic of miracles, and I call it miraculous. So let's look at the concept of miraculous. Let's define it first of all, and then we'll ask some questions. Miraculous means occurring or manifesting through divine or supernatural intervention. That's an interesting thing to unveil because your belief system would come into play there. Do you believe in divine? Do you believe in some sort of superpower or divine or supernatural intervention? We all have different ways of explaining that, but do you believe in something that is extraordinary and bigger than this thing we call human beings? So, do you believe in miracles? When we ask this question, can I expect a miracle today, Daddy? Do you believe in miracles? And we're going to get more into the belief component of it, but have you ever witnessed a miracle? If I were to ask you today on this unique day, the 11/11, November 11th, what miracle would you like to see manifest? Would you know how to answer that right away? Psst, set your alarm today for 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. if you're watching this live, and you'll be able to get the trifecta. So, what is a miracle? Let's develop a relationship with the concept of miracles if we know that belief plays into it. So, what is a miracle? An unusual, wonderful event that is believed to be caused by the power of God. Now, it's interesting how that's the primary definition. They use the God word there. It also goes on to say a divine miracle. So also gives you access to a new word, the divine, the all being, right? But I just always find it interesting, the verbiage that man uses to define things. And then it goes on to say, she believed that God had given her the power to work and perform miracles. Do you believe that you have the power to work and perform miracles in other people's lives? We've spoken before about this idea. What a fun thing it is to do, to go out to be somebody's day maker, meaning do something today that makes somebody else's day. It's a wonderful way to go about life. It's in service. But do you believe that you have the power? Of course you do, but do you believe that you have the power? A miracle worker is a person who is able to work and perform miracles. Where do you stand on that? And then I just had a thought about that pop into my head. If this is true, this idea that this is a power bestowed on us by God, what about those of you that don't believe in God? Because I don't have an opinion on that. Well, I do, but it's not one I'll share. But what do we say about the people that believe in God? This is an interesting component of miracles. Are they out of the running for miracles? Well, I would assume some would say yes and some would say no, and some would maybe say maybe or maybe not. Or is it good enough to believe in a higher power? This is an interesting thing about miracles because humanity has created some rules around miracles, and it's changed the way we look at things. And it obviously will have an impact on our belief. But if you believe in a higher power and you just don't call it the God word, are you in the running for miracles as well? I think you'll find it interesting when we come to the end to see that the answer is most likely yes. You know your way of seeing it, don't you? Well, we'll get back to that when we talk later about belief. So another question. Do you speak the language? This is fascinating. I'm a big Greg Braden fan, and he very often correlates the divine and all of this stuff that, this place where miracles created. He very often goes back into the biblical scriptures and stuff. So I want to share something with you that he identified, and I'll share the resources in the podcast. So question, do you speak the language that the universe or the divine or God comprehends when you are asking, hoping, and praying for a miracle? It's interesting to think about that, because if you do believe in miracles and you're hoping and praying and asking for a miracle and it's not coming, sometimes you have to wonder if you didn't ask for it the right way. See, that's the space that I want to invite you to come in on today, right? So the Buddhists say that the language of the divine is not one that only comes from the mouth, and is more one that comes from a feeling. The feeling as if the miracle has already been manifested. Now, you could look at that as an optimist, vantage point, but it's another thing to move past optimism and have a belief system that which you are hoping, praying, and asking for has already manifested. Isn't that interesting? For me, that seems like something that would leverage our results, right? So, by the way, if you're listening to this live and coming in, or even if you're watching this as a recording, we're streaming to Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And for those of you listening to this live, we have exciting news on the 18th, which is November 18th, 2024. My great friend Jim Quick is going to do something really, really special for all of us. And that will be at, I believe, noon Eastern on the 18th. Those of you that are members of Creative Con, ticket holders of Creative Con, and also members of the Make Sense Academy, you will have the recording of this. But basically, we're going to run a live stream to YouTube, my YouTube channel. So you could find that by going to YouTube and then at JC Doornick. It'll be a one-time only thing, unless you're in the Make Sense Academy or you're a ticket holder for Creative Con, where Jim is going to spend an hour with us and give us all of the tools for recall, memory, just improving your memory, remembering people's names, and also speed reading tips, so that you can not only look at 2024 as a time where you're going to level up, but actually be prepared with the tools and the skill sets to actually do so. So let's look at this idea of this language again. So according to this amazing human being that I just have read every book, one of my favorite all-time books ever, I'll put it in the resource as well, called The Divine Matrix. It was written by this guy named Greg Braden. Greg Braden's a New York Times bestselling author and scientist, and internationally known or renowned as a pioneer in bridging science and spirituality with what we call the real world. So as you can imagine, I love him. So there's something called the lost gospel that he speaks of Thomas. Now, basically the way he explains it is that this is what came before the Bible. So these are like the actual secret sayings from the biblical character known as Jesus. And I say the character not to step on anybody's toes, but just to be kind of even with everybody. But basically the lost gospel of Thomas is, things that Jesus said when he was going around and just sharing what he was knowing and feeling. And apparently the lost gospel of Thomas, the actual original verbiage, was actually removed by Christian leaders at the time from the Bible due to the controversial and potentially contradicting nature that they had in contrast to what was written in the Bible. So whether you believe in that or not, it's interesting, right? There is this thing called the lost gospel of Thomas. And what he finds in it that's relevant, merging that with this topic, is he finds interesting information in there that is talking about this concept of people asking God for miracles and to be saved and things like that. So he says what he found in it is when you make your feeling and your emotion, and when I say emotion, I'm referring to your thoughts. So when you make your feelings and your thoughts into one single potent force, you can look at the mountain and say, mountain, move. So what he's saying there is there's this place where our thoughts and our feelings come together and merge, where everything changes. And what it's also saying is that if you're asking for things and hoping and praying for things, and you're not doing that with this divine language, then hypothetically, the divine power, the universe, God, doesn't know how to help you. This is an interesting concept if you're asking for miracles and not seeing them manifest, because maybe you're just asking the wrong way. I would assume that it would be similar to me. My wife and I were in Hong Kong one time, and we were just looking for this restaurant, but nobody spoke our English, and we couldn't find it, right? Because they didn't understand. They would look at us and say, "I'm sorry," and we were just plainly saying, "Where is Mox Noodles?" Right, or something. I think that was what it's called, and they just didn't understand. So when you ask and hope and pray for things, does the divine, where these things are hypothetically manifested, understand? So what is that language? Well, it has to do with your thoughts and feelings merging together. In this lost book, it also says, when the two marry, your thoughts and feelings, within the house, prayers are answered and miracles are manifested. And now by house, this is what Greg Braden says, it's referring to you. When they marry, they're marrying inside of you. Now I'm going to put the link to the video in the YouTube. This is live and it'll be posted on my YouTube channel where the Jim Quick thing is going to happen. So we have heard this over and over. Ask and you shall receive, right? We keep on hearing that. All we have to do is ask and we shall receive. But when people ask and nothing happens, what this is saying is it's because they're only asking. But the field where the miracles are manifested doesn't understand how to oblige because the language is not complete. Is your language complete when it comes to your belief and your ask of a miracle today? Are you even looking for a miracle? Have you given up on it? Until the thought of the task is married with a feeling and an emotion under the same house, there is no comprehension. Make sense? So how does this translate into your life today at this time? Those are my 3 favorite words to put at the end of sentences. At this time. It always opens the door for change. Are you asking for simply the sake of asking, or is it a full body ask and a full thought ask? It reminds me of another strategy that I teach that I think is highly relevant and simplified for you today. And we teach this in our community. And it's this idea of approaching the day called 3 for 3. It's a reminder that when your thoughts, feelings, and actions are in full alignment and congruency, the goal or desired state becomes something that is highly probable and leveraged into its highest form of probability. And just digest that for a second. Also reminding us that we don't control outcomes that require others, right? Other people to also take action and follow through. Are you putting all of your eggs in the basket that's being carried by somebody else that you have no idea if they're going to follow through? We only control what we control, the controllables. And that is to take this desired state that we call our goals, hopes, and dreams, and identify the thoughts, feelings, and actions that support and leverage that desired state, and then make the full body decision to go all in with those. You see, what we control are those, the thoughts, feelings, and actions that either support or don't support our goals and dreams. So myself, when I'm 3 for 3 in my day, I evaluate a different metric, a different measurement than most people do to evaluate my success, my return on investment, perhaps. Evaluate potential and probability. Those are the metrics that I love to look at. My potential and my probability, which goes sky high when I'm 3 for 3. So if you go 3 for 3 in your life and never turn around, you'll rest your head on your pillow at night with this certainty that will kind of say, hey, with all this shit, there's got to be a pony somewhere. That's called potential, right? And possibilities. It's a great feeling. So that's a good night's sleep too. So once again, I'm going to give you some cool resources on that. So back to the marriage of your thoughts and feelings. I contest that the main reason for anyone that prays for a miracle where the miracle doesn't manifest, I think it's a belief thing. So here we are in the belief part, which is the same reason that somebody would go 3 for 3 maybe on January 1st, but then back away from it. They lose faith in themselves and the powers that be because they lose their belief. So belief plays a role in that. Call those powers what you like, God, universe, divine, or even nowadays you can call it the matrix or the simulation. But when this sacred language was bestowed on the human race of marrying our thoughts and feelings together, it was like we were given this secret passcode to unlock the vault. And I think we just forget about this secret passcode and the vault. So your desire for a miracle today must be married with your belief and faith that it is to be, that it is already. Make sense? So when you get this right, you'll learn the greatest secret that I have ever learned in my life. I'm 53, and here is the greatest secret that I have ever learned. And it was passed on to me several times, but I wasn't ready to hear it. Here it is. The miracle is already there, and you just couldn't see it. Why? Because you are the miracle, my friend. The odds that you are even here right now are, like I said, miraculous. Let me put some color to that. In the observable universe, meaning the only part of the universe that we can even see, because as you know, the universe is moving away from us. Just imagine how big the universe is. But in the observable universe, there is something like 2 trillion galaxies. Now let's just look at our galaxy out of the 2 trillion, called the Milky Way. Our galaxy, our little galaxy, 1 out of 2 trillion, has 400 billion planets in it alone. It's said that only 1 in 1 million planets has the right situation to manifest life as we know it. The right atmosphere and chemicals and sun and orbit and gravity and all of that stuff. 1 out of 1 million planets. And in our galaxy alone, there are 400 billion. The odds that your mom simply met your dad and have been calculated. I mean, think about that. The odds that your mom met your dad, right? It's been calculated at something like 1 out of 20,000, which is less than the planets, but it's still a lot. And then the fact that they stayed together long enough to have you, that's like 1 in 2,000 within it. Your immediate existence then, just from one generation, is now like 1 in 40 million. Just for you to show up on a good or a bad day. I'll give you the resource to that as well. So this is how we come to terms with the fact that we are a miracle, right? A friend asked me this question the other day, and this is an interesting thing to think about. They asked me, God's honest truth, do you think that I'm cool? And my answer was this: I think that you're way better than cool, because you are one of a kind. Amongst these crazy statistics around our existence are the many others that make you, other statistics. You're one of a kind. So there is simply nothing else in this entire world like you. There's humans, but there's only one you. So to say that you're cool would be my way of comparing you to others, which is silly, right? Because there's nobody else in the entire world like you. So you're not cool. You are a miracle. So that's what you are. So what you going to do about that? So every morning when you wake up and you get another shot, another 24 hours of life with breath in your lungs and a beat in your heart, your potential for greatness is unlimited, beyond measure, beyond the measurements of man, science and mathematics, way beyond your potential. So take that potential and leverage it today by deciding simply what you want. You create it. You get to choose what you want, why, and then simply back that up with radical, borderline obsessive action, working the things that you control, going 3 for 3 in support of your desired state, regardless of what else is going on in the world around you, which doesn't matter. Add all that shit up, and I'd say that you're surely going to find a pony in the very near future. Make sense? So love and appreciate you all. I hope you enjoyed this today. We are in 1111, and we're very, very excited about that. If you want to stay in touch with all of this interesting stuff and gain a new conscious perspective, follow me on Substack. You can always find me by my name. That's my kind of vlog and blog. All my podcasts come through there, and all my writings that I share. And also check out the Make Sense Academy. Hey, it's been wonderful. Have a great day. I love and appreciate you all, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.